What is slashing?
We have answers.
Slashing is, like that, you know?
And there's a penalty for that?
Yeah, you do that, you go to the box, you know, 2 minutes by yourself, and you feel shame, you know, and then you get free.
This is CBJ in 30.
Anything you folks want to know about the fascinating world of pro hockey, here we go.
Tweet your questions by using the hashtag CBJIN30.
We'd like to remind you folks, keep your questions within the boundaries of good taste.
Here's your host, Bob McElligott.
Oh, I so wish there was something going on to talk about today. It would be so nice if there was, something that really grabbed your attention, really had you on the edge of your seat, really had you thinking Blue Jackets hockey here a week before Memorial Day. What's that? Oh, yeah, there is. There is, in a big way. Welcome to CBJ in 30. I'm Bob McElligott, taking your questions and your comments just by tweeting them and using the hashtag CBJIN30. It's that simple to do. Well, today is somewhat of a big day because of what was reported yesterday by Aaron Portzline of the Columbus Dispatch when he reported that R.J. Umberger has asked the organization for a trade. See, and I said it in the correct hockey vernacular, organization, that he has asked for a trade. So that's what has been said. That's what has been reported. That's what I should say. That's what has been reported by the Columbus Dispatch, that RJ is looking for that. So I am sure that came as a big shock to many of you yesterday when you were sitting down and trying to find out the hockey news that was going on. So let's just get this out of the way early and often here today, right off the top at the start of the show, because I know you have a lot of questions about it. And let's just knock it out right now and get it over with and tell you what I think's going on here. Well, it was pretty much, it was basically confirmed by John Davidson last night on Wall to Wall Sports on Channel 10 that the Blue Jackets and R.J. Umberger did have some kind of a conversation anyway. As a matter of fact, here's what the president of hockey operations, John Davidson, said about the situation on that show just last night.
I think the best thing to say is that we don't get into speculation regarding trades, but I do know this much. When we run a professional sports organization and you have to look at improving your club, you're going to look to do anything you possibly can to improve your club. And if it means moving somebody out, somebody on, you do that. If a player talks to you as an organization that he needs a change of scenery, you try to help. You try to do the right thing, and we've appreciated what RJ's done for us, but it has to be something that makes sense for our club. And again, we're going to look at becoming a better club so we can do, get ourselves into a playoff picture again, win some playoff games, win a round, move on to the ultimate goal. We have to keep evolving as an organization and getting better, and sometimes it means moving players. That's a tough part of the business.
That is John Davidson, Blue Jackets president of hockey operations, on Channel 10's Wall to Wall Sports last night, talking about that situation. So there's the answer to every question that you have, is right within that statement by John Davidson. And the question is, what do you do? Well, you do what you can, and you do what you can to make the team better, and that's going to be the bottom line, whatever it takes to make the Blue Jackets better. Now, the unfortunate thing about this whole deal is, and the way it comes about and all this stuff, is that R.J. Umberger is not only a good NHL player, but R.J. is a guy that has spent a lot of time here in Central Ohio playing for the Ohio State Buckeyes, eventually going to the NHL for the Philadelphia Flyers and being acquired in a trade by the Blue Jackets. And he has been here through a lot of the bad times and then, of course, some of the good times. He went to the playoffs with the Blue Jackets against Detroit 5 years ago. He was a big part of what happened here in Game 4. Again, a game that's going to go down in history. It's going to go down as one of the greatest games played by this franchise until they play some even better and more important games as time goes on. But as it stands right now, that's got to be one of the top 3 games in the franchise history. What happened here in that Game 4 against the Penguins, and it was RJ that blocked a shot and then set up Nick Foligno on the overtime game-winning goal. So he's been a huge part of what's gone on here for a long time. As I said, he's a good player, he's a good guy, and he's also a very smart guy. He's a really smart guy, too. So how this all develops is, when you look around and you read the room and you see what's going on with this organization, this team was the youngest team in the playoffs. But it's also a team that is getting younger. believe it or not, because there are a lot of guys coming. There are a lot of guys in the pipeline. They're on their way, and they can play. And I know they're prospects, and I know that it's easy to be excited about prospects until you see them actually play in the NHL. There's that potential factor. You know, you don't buy groceries on potential. You have to actually perform. But the guys that are coming this time around, when you look at their history and you look at their stats and you look at the kind of players that they are at the level that they're playing right now, there are a lot of good guys coming. Just last summer, 3 first-round draft picks the Blue Jackets got. Alexander Wenberg, Kirby Reichel, Marco Dano. They've signed every one of them to a contract. They're coming. Josh Anderson's playing in London. Fantastic year. Gritty and scoring. He's coming. Oliver Bjorkstrand didn't make it to the Memorial Cup. His Portland team got eliminated by Edmonton. Very possible he could have still been playing for the Memorial Cup this week. He's not, but that didn't take away from the great year that he had. He's coming. They're coming. There's footsteps, and they're big footsteps, and they're exciting footsteps as to what's coming in this organization. Let's go back to the beginning of the year, as a matter of fact. Let's just go back to the beginning of the year. Remember when the Blue Jackets got off to such a tough start, and it was so frustrating? And what was the biggest name that came out early in the year? What was the name that a lot of people were bringing up and mentioning? Vinny Prospal. Boy, this team could use Vinny Prospal. They could use his leadership. He was a leading scorer last year. Where is he? How could they let him go? Where's Vinny Prospal? And the organization's stance at that time was that there are young players that need the ice time who they felt would be more productive getting more ice time. So they didn't go get Vinny Prospal. They didn't do it last summer. They didn't do it when times were tough early in the season. And what became of not making that move? Well, I can tell you. Boone Jenner got a lot of ice time. Cam Atkinson got a lot of ice time. A lot of young players got a lot of ice time. And now I ask you, with that season being in the rearview mirror and looking at the 16 goals that Boone Jenner had, the 18 goals that Cam Atkinson had, the productive players that they became throughout the course of the season, I ask you, looking back in hindsight, which is always 20/20, would you have rather had an aging Vinny Prospal, who, by the way, is out of the game, never did sign on and retired partway through the season? Would you rather had him here, or would you have rather developed those two players the way that they were developed? It's an easy answer now. The answer is, yeah, you're happy with what happened. But that's my point. There are young guys coming. There are quality young guys coming. And if R.J. Umberger, you know, people will say, that here's the next thing that everybody's saying. Well, that contract will be untradeable. Okay. Well, let me tell you something. We heard that Jeff Carter's contract was untradeable, and he got traded twice. Heard that Jack Johnson's contract was untradeable. He got traded. Here's the bottom line. There's a way to do something if you want to do it badly enough. And now with the new CBA and being able to retain salary and things like that, there are more creative ways that you can go about doing things. So, yes, on the surface, it looks like that might be a hard move to get worth back out of it. I get that. But here's one thing I know, and I honestly feel completely comfortable about this. That Jarmo Kekalainen and John Davidson are two very smart guys. And they know exactly what they're doing. And you heard JD say it when he was on Wall to Wall Sports last night. It's about getting better. If you can help the player and help yourself, that's what they're going to do. And if you can't do that, maybe you wind up doing nothing. I don't know how that's all going to shake out. I don't know what that's going to do, but I'll tell you this. Those guys are going to do what they feel is right for the organization, and I feel 100% that whatever that discussion and that decision winds up being, it's going to be just that. What makes this team better? It makes the organization better. It makes them stronger and gives them a chance to go further than they did this year. So from that standpoint, I'm not worried about it. I am not worried about it one bit, not one iota. I like R.J. Umberger. He's a good guy. He's a good player. He's been great for this franchise. If he feels that it's time to move on, if they feel they can get better by doing that, great. Win-win for everybody. Whatever it takes. That's what this organization is going to do, whatever it takes to get better. There's no doubt about that. So let me just knock out a whole bunch of these questions. I can do this very, very simply. I'm just going to go through the list, and here's Kevin Zuckerman wants to know this. Owen wants to know this. Charles Anderson wants to know this. Let's see. No, that one's a little bit different. I'll leave that one. The big question is, from those people, and I'm sure from some others as I scroll through it here, the question is, what do you get for R.J. Umberger? What can you realistically expect? What can they trade him for? What will they do? And I can wrap this all up in one answer. I don't know. I don't know. And there are some people that do what I do for a living that like to, or they aspire to be a general manager, even in their own mind. I don't. I really don't. And that's not the kind of answer you want with this thing going on here. But I have more of a coach's mentality. And that is, tell me who's here, and let's concentrate on those guys. And the guys that aren't here or may never be here, I'm not worried about it. Give me the guys that are here. And especially now in today's world, I don't like math enough to sit around and try to figure out how contracts are going to work out. How do you trade money? What's going to be the best, this and that? I'm not bogging down my sunny summer day thinking about that stuff. That's for those guys to make that decision and get what they get and do the best with it. And I'm telling you, they're going to do what's going to be best for this organization. I know that. You don't need me to tell you. What do I know about it? There are some teams that I think there are some teams that are going to be interested in an R.J. Umberger. I don't know what their offer is going to be coming back the other way, but I know he'll have some interest. I don't think there's any doubt about that. One thing I'm going to be interested in is to see how interested, if any, his hometown team is with all the disarray that's going on over there in Pittsburgh, where they're saying they don't have enough grit and they don't have enough bottom six guys and they don't have enough character guys that fit those roles. And that's one team. And there's going to be 18 other teams that can be in the mix too when it's all said and done. So that's the R.J. Umberger situation. I hope I've wrapped it up pretty well for you. Now, there's some other questions on this that come from a little different perspective. Elaine Shercliffe wants to know, if R.J. doesn't get traded this offseason, do you think knowing that he wants to be dealt, it'll affect the team's morale? No. You know why? Because he's a pro. He's a pro and everybody else is a pro. And again, it's going to be what's best for the organization. And if he's here, I would expect him to be here and be a pro about it, for sure. I don't think there's animosity or anything like that. I think, he's just reading the room, and you want to be a big part of what's going on. You still want to play top minutes, and you want to do, you want what's best for you as a player. It's a business. At the end of the day, it's still a business. The player's job is to get into the best situation for him, and the organization's job is to have the players that put the organization in the best situation. So he's a pro. He would be fine with that. There was somebody else that asked. Oh, here it is. Isabella Black says, how do you think the other players feel about the potential of a teammate with a trade request? Again, this goes back to the business thing to me. Everybody understands it. Everybody gets it. And I haven't talked to any of the guys about it because it's business and it's May and it's, it's not a big deal. It's not that big a deal. And I don't mean that to downplay the player or the situation. It's, this is totally different from the Nash situation. That was middle of the year, stuff coming out, and you're playing and, all that stuff. So I think everybody is fine. And I know everybody will be fine on the whole deal. All right, the conference finals have both gotten underway. The Eastern Conference Finals started in Montreal with the New York Rangers just pounding the snot out of the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, 7-2. I turned that game on late, and I turned it on, and I refocused, and I changed the channel, and I changed it back because I thought my TV was broken. Holy cow. 7 goals by the New York Rangers. You talk about laying the smackdown on the Montreal Canadiens. That's what they did. Even Rick Nash got a goal in that game. His first one of the playoffs in 50-some shots. Of course, it was the 7th goal. But anyway, my point is they're rolling, or they were rolling in that game. And a lot of people say, well, the Canadiens are coming off a hangover after beating the Boston Bruins. And I know, but to give up 7 in your building? Now, Carey Price, gold medal Olympic winning goaltender, played 2 periods in that game and didn't come back for the third. Chris Kreider ran into him. Took his right leg pretty hard into the post. It's an ugly scene. You know, that's one of those collisions where you see it in real time and you go, wow, that looked like a tough collision. And then you start to look at it in slow motion. They give you that overhead angle. And you see the guys skate to hit the post and stop. And then the player's body continues right through that leg. And you see it kind of hyperextend. It's ugly, hard to watch. Hard to watch. But he was out after 2 periods. Yesterday, he was on the ice for about 5 minutes. Did not participate in the optional skate for the Canadiens. Just minutes ago, Michel Therrien, the head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, or Michael Therrien, as they call him in Pittsburgh. I still have never figured that one out. When did he go from Michel to Michael? He doesn't go by Mike in Montreal. Anyway, Therrien told the media this morning that Carey Price is out for the remainder of the series. Ouch. Huh. How about that? Peter Budaj finished that game, and all of a sudden Peter Budaj is the man of the hour to face the New York Rangers. Now let's take this back to a conversation that we had on this show last week, talking about lack of respect because you get the backup goaltender. Peter Budaj's been in the NHL for a long time. Peter Budaj can play. Peter Budaj had gotten the assignment of playing against the Boston Bruins during the regular season and beat them. Okay? So, again, it's not like they went down the street, found a guy panhandling on the corner, asked him to dress in goalie gear, and put him between the pipes. This guy can play. He knows how to get the job done. Will he? I don't know. We're going to find out. They'll have no choice but to find out. Will they play differently in front of him? What does that mean? They won't give up 7? They're going to play tighter. I'll bet you they try to play tighter defense in front of Peter Budaj. Try to give him a chance. Don't want to have him be the focal point of what's going on. So it could work for him. It could work against him. Listen, when you lose Carey Price, that is a huge blow. Absolutely, positively huge. He's your best player. On that team, he's their best player. Let's be honest. But now he's out. So who's going to step up? It's got to be Peter Budaj and the guys in front of him. So it'll be interesting to watch the rest of that series. Because now when you look at it, you go, Lundqvist, Budaj, no-brainer. Rangers are going to sweep this thing. Or they're going to get it in 5. Did anybody pick the Rangers to be in the conference final? Was anybody expecting that? No, not really. So, stranger things have happened. Now, I'll tell you this. If they come through that and win with Peter Budaj, then what? All bets are off. I still think the Western Conference team's going to win no matter who they face. I really do. There's no question. Who are they going to play instead of Budaj? The kid out of Hamilton? Dustin Tokarski? I'd play Peter Budaj. Dustin Tokarski. He's bounced around the American Hockey League. He's been around. He was in the Tampa organization, I believe. They sent him to Montreal. It's scary how many things I know for no reason. It really is. Why would I know that? Why would I care about that? But anyway. All right, so if they go with Dustin Tokarski, then you're right. Rangers in 4 or 5. Okay, next. Western Conference Final. The LA Kings, Chicago Blackhawks. That was an exciting game yesterday. You know what stunk about that game? And you could make the same argument for the Montreal game. That it was on in the afternoon. On a beautiful afternoon, that's when that game was on. I would have much rather been outside yesterday at 3 o'clock instead of sitting inside watching that game. Because I don't have a dog in the fight. But I watched it. It was a good game. It was a really good game. You know what I think is going to be exciting about watching those two teams is they push and they push and they push. And the minute one makes a mistake, the other one jumps all over it. And they are like down the ice 3 men strong, and you better be battening down the hatches because here they come. And both teams do it. Both of them do it. And I think that's going to be a fun series to watch. That's one that, after watching the first one, I said, I hope this thing goes 7 games because this would be exciting just to sit and watch each and every day. And the Blackhawks had a rally in that one. They had a 1-0 lead. They had a goal disallowed on a incidental contact with the goaltender type thing where nobody knew what was going on whatsoever. No commentator knew what was going on, why they were having a discussion on the ice. But called it a goal. 4 officials got together. They talked about it. They ruled that the goalie was interfered with before the puck went in the net. They waved it off. Then it becomes a non-reviewable call because of the nature of the call was the goaltender interference. So now it doesn't matter what it looks like on a replay. They can't review it. So they wipe it off. So now it's still 1-0. And then, a minute later, L.A. comes up the ice and scores. Now it's 1-1. And this is why the Chicago Blackhawks are champions. And they have been 2 times in the last couple of years. Because they didn't, you very well, in a game of that magnitude, you can get yourself out of the game at that moment. You should have had a 2-0 lead, and now all of a sudden you're tied 1-1 a minute later. And you can drop your head and you can feel sorry about yourselves, and you can kind of go in the tank a little bit, especially with the way L.A. just kept on pushing and firing and coming up the ice. But they didn't. They persevered. They eventually added that second one, and then Jonathan Toews got them the insurance they were looking for with about 6 minutes left in the game. Another big goal by the captain of the Chicago Blackhawks. Big goals, big times. Jonathan Toews. Doesn't count as a game winner, but it doesn't matter. It might as well. As soon as you make it 3-1, it's pretty much game over at that point. So that was a good game to watch. I enjoyed watching that game. They were talking about the Kings the whole time. Well, they don't look like a team that's worn out. Really? I know they just played 2 7-game series, but it's the playoffs. You know why they weren't worn out? Because it's the Cup. And I didn't realize, and I should have, and I never even thought about it until I heard Kenny Albert say it yesterday. That was the first time they were out of the state of California in 38 days. They never left the state. Well, hell, they never left their house against the Anaheim Ducks, basically. So they finally get out of town, and they went out and they played a respectable game. They didn't, they didn't win that game, but they're gonna win some games in that series, for sure. They're going to win some games in that series, and it is going to be fun to watch. John Cassidy writes in, with Price out for the Habs, does that mean their doom at the hands of the Rangers? Well, again, it could. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. That's why you play the game. How many cliches do you want? I can give you a whole bunch of them. Simple as that. But that is, again, huge, huge blow to the Montreal Canadiens not having Carey Price. Oh, and the Blue Jackets went through that when Sergei Bobrovsky went down early in the year. You remember how you felt when you heard he wasn't going to play for 5 weeks? Sick. But other guys got the job done. So whether it's Dustin Tokarski or Peter Budaj, they got to get the job done. It's as simple as that. So the Rangers and Canadiens continue that series tonight. And again, night game. I like it. Can come home from Little League Baseball and sit down and watch NHL hockey. Can't beat that. It's like a broken drum. You can't beat it. And it's going to be very fun to watch. Very, very fun to watch. Drake wants to know, how often do you see players ask out of a team when the team is at its peak as a franchise? Well, first of all, where do I want to go with that question? The first thing that piques my interest there is the word peak. Because is this team at its peak as a franchise? I don't think so. It's climbing. It's not at its peak. And again, as I said earlier, it's still a business. I mean, you're looking for the best situation for yourself. If you read the room and you feel that you're not going to be a big part of what's going on, or your role is going to diminish, or whatever, and if you think there's a better situation for you, you have the right to ask. Nobody's taking away your right to ask. And again, from an organizational standpoint, if they think they can utilize your request and make them better, that's what they'll do. Simple as that. So so the team, with the team not being at its peak, I don't know. I think it happens more than you know. I think it happens more than gets reported sometimes. Even though a team is, again, it's just business. It's not personal. What does Tony Stradbeck want to know? How does it feel to be playing in Nationwide Arena with all the energy? And what team is a rival now? Well, Pittsburgh's a rival. New York's a rival. I'm sitting here right now looking down at where the ice was, and it's a shame there's no energy in here right now. Because just a couple of weeks ago, it was rocking in here, and it will be again. No doubt about that. It will be again. Pittsburgh and the Rangers are the two rivals coming into the season next year, and then, whatever happens from there. Wonder if anything will get done this week in the way of, GM openings, coaches openings, those kind of things. People like to, I think the league tries to keep that stuff under wraps as much as it can during the playoffs too. Guys are going to get fired. And for some teams, they're going to have to hire guys at certain points because they got to do it, right? They got to have somebody running the ship. Here's a West Ohio CBJ fan tweeting in saying, "Can we just trade Umberger for John Moore, Derek Dorsett, and Derek Brassard? That'd be fun, right?" Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. That would be history all over again, wouldn't it? That's a funny one. I like that. I like you bringing the humor to it. Absolutely. But those guys, I guess Brassard's going to play tonight. I guess he's going to be back. He left that game one. I guess he'll be back to play for the New York Rangers. I want to see what getting that goal does for Rick Nash, quite frankly. I really do. Oh, Bob McKenzie is tweeting that Pat Brisson has decided to remain in the agent business and will not be pursuing the Pittsburgh general manager's job. Well, smart on all fronts. I just think, that with that one being reported last week, I just thought that would look terrible. I was, he's Sidney Crosby's agent. And you fire the GM and then you bring in the agent of your star player, who I know is good buddies with Mario Lemieux and has been forever, but that one just stunk to me. I just didn't think it would look good for them, and obviously that's now out. And I think they need a guy, and I'm not saying Pat Brisson couldn't have done that job, but I think the first thing he would have had to do is hire some good people around him, because he'd be learning on the fly. He'd be learning to run an NHL franchise on the fly. And that's a franchise where they obviously have high expectations because they just gassed a guy that was pretty good. And then to hire a guy that has to learn on the fly, I don't know if that would have been smart. But he also has, isn't Patrick Kane his client? He's due for a new contract. I'd stay. Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, they might get extensions this year. I'd stay in the agent business too. Take that percentage. And then maybe think about being GM in the future. But you might as well get the percentage while you can get it. That's going to be an interesting one. And there's a lot of speculation over the weekend, too, whether or not Jason Botterill, who's the interim GM, is going to get the job on a regular basis because he's an up-and-coming guy. A lot of people, his name has been thrown around a lot the last couple of years. But if the Penguins do that, how are they going to look? hey, we just fired our GM and we gave his assistant GM the job. See, I don't know if that's going to fly there either. But I don't know what's going on there, and I'm not sure that they know what's going on there either. So that'll be a developing situation to watch. Rangers-Canadiens tonight, Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Final, and the Rangers have a 1-0 lead. Again, Carey Price, he's out for the series, which will make it even more interesting to watch, and we'll talk about it again tomorrow starting at 11:30.